Hey everybody, happy April 2022. I'm here with my March 2022 Toronto Regional Real Estate Board market update. So this is going to cover the City of Toronto. We're going to do the 416. We're going to look at the freeholds and the condos. Then we're going to jump into the 905. We'll look at Durham, York, and Peel regions to see what happened in March 2022 across the board. To get these numbers, you're going to have to stick with me on the other side of this intro. Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. It's Rob Marsiglio here from the Robert Marsiglio Realty Group with Keller Williams Referred Realty. Today I want to provide a little bit of an update as to what is happening in the markets in and around Toronto. The Toronto Regional Real Estate Board posted its monthly Market Watch report, and here is what they had to say. GTA Realtors reported 10,955 sales through TRREB's MLS system in March 2022. That represented a 30% decline compared to the record results of 15,628 in March 2021. While sales were down year over year for all major market segments, condo apartment transactions dipped by a much lesser annual rate. New listings were also down on a year-over-year basis, but by a much lesser annual rate than sales, and this suggests that while market conditions remained very tight, home buyers did not experience the same level of competition from other buyers compared to a year earlier. The average selling price across all home types was up by 18.5% year over year. And lastly, from TRREB's chief market analyst Jason Mercer, he said competition between home buyers in the GTA remains very strong in most neighborhoods and market segments. However, we did experience more balance in the first quarter of 2022 compared to last year. If this trend continues, it is possible that the pace of price growth could moderate as we move through the year. Pretty generous to say it was more balanced first quarter. I think that all happened really in the latter half of that quarter. It was pretty bonkers leading up to the middle/end of February, and things only really did start to slow down in March. So let's jump into our numbers. I'm going to start with Toronto proper, the freehold market. This is all segments, so we're talking detached, semis, and townhomes. If you have specific questions about your neighborhood or a certain segment of the market, don't hesitate to reach out. All the info is down below in the description of this video. We're going to start with the total number of listings and look at how they compared to last year and to last month. So there are 2,793 new freehold listings in the City of Toronto. That is down 17.8% roughly from last year, but it is up from February 2022 by 39.7%. Sales, on the other hand, we had just over 1,500, 1,547 sales. That's down from last year again by almost 30%, 29.6%, and it is up from last month, but only by 26.9%. So you can see that while new listings year over year are depressed, sales are depressed even more. And then while new listings are up from last month, sales aren't up quite as much. So that's where you're starting to see that bit of a gap in the market, maybe a little bit more inventory, a little bit less competition for buyers. If this continues, we're going to see more months of inventory and the shift continuing towards a buyer's market, but we're not even close to a buyer's market yet. It may feel like a balanced or more normal market just because of what we've been experiencing, honestly, for the last couple months. The average price of a freehold property in the City of Toronto got almost to 1.8 million in March 2022. It was 1,787,000. So it's actually down from February when it was just over 1.9 million, but it's up 11.8% from last year at this time. Your sold price to listing ratio is about 117%. So my example always goes back to the $1 million. If you're listed at $1 million, on average, you're selling for 170,000 over that number. And for the median days on market, still very quick for the properties that are selling. They're only sitting on the market for about 7 days. Let's look at the condo market for the City of Toronto. And spoiler alert, it is the only market segment that didn't actually experience a dip in prices from February to March. But what did happen? Stick with me just for a little bit more and you'll find out. New listings were just under 4,000 for March 2022. That's 3,964. It's down year over year about 2%. It is up about 32% from the month prior. Sales, we had 2,314. So year over year, it's down quite a bit. Listings were only down 2%, but sales are actually down about 24%. And in terms of the increase from the month prior, we were about 13% more sales in March 2022 than in February 2022. So again, same thing we saw in the detached market, and it's going to be just a recurring theme, so I'm not going to hammer on it anymore, but you know, new listings increasing, sales were increasing a bit month over month, but not by quite as much, and you're seeing that bit of a gap in the market, which, as Jason Mercer, the TRREB analyst, was referring to, that's where you're starting to maybe see a bit of softening in terms of buyer competition. As I said, the average price of a condo in Toronto didn't actually dip from last month to this month, but it was only up about $150 on average, so you call them both $844,000. In March it was $844,560, and in February it was $844,400. Properties, condos are selling for about 12% over asking, and they're sitting on the market for just about those 7 days, the ones that are selling. Let's move into the 905, and we're going to work our way from east to west. Today we're going to start in Durham region. We had 2,521 new listings. That's up 55% from February, but it's down 12.6% from a year ago at this time. We saw 1,365 sales. That's up about 21% from last month, but down about 32% from a year ago at this time. What did that all mean for prices? Well, the average price of a home in Durham region was still over 1.1 million, 1.14 million. That represents about a 27% increase from last year, but it did see the biggest dip month to month, and prices across the board were down about 7.7% in the region. So it's really no surprise. Durham saw the biggest jump from December to January of about 16%. That was followed by Toronto Freehold market, which saw kind of the second biggest correction in prices next to Durham, and they also saw the second biggest increase from December to January. So I'm not surprised to see those two markets experience this kind of fall back to not average, but like or normal, but just the most of a fallback. Properties were still selling for about 24% over list, and they only sat on the market for about 6 days. Moving to York region, we saw 4,071 new listings. That was up about 41% from last month, but down about 15% from last year at this time. There are 1,845 sales. That's up about 10% from last month, and down about 36% from last year. The average price point stayed above 1.5. It was 1,507,000, down slightly from almost 1.6 the month prior, but still up almost 20% year over year. Properties sold for 13% over asking on average and stayed on the market for about 7 days. Let's wrap things up with Peel. So 4,124 new listings. That was up about 42% month over month, but down about 12% from last year at this time. There were 2,013 sales. That was up 7% from last month, but down about 36% from last year at this time. And that resulted in an average sale price of $1.27 million roughly. That number's down about 5.7% from February, but still up almost 20% from a year ago at this time. Once again, properties sold for 13% over asking on average, and they only stayed on the market for 5-6 days. So we finally did see a bit of a come down in prices, condo market aside. I did do a prediction video on my channel for Durham region. I think you can paint a broad stroke for the entire 905. I do think prices may soften a little bit. I definitely don't see any rampant increases. A couple factors in play for that are, foreign buyers tax coming in. It was increased a little bit, and it was kind of more broadly spread. I also think that interest rates going up, keep your eyes peeled for April 13th. I will be doing a video on the next rate announcement. They're expecting it to be about 0.5 point as opposed to the 1/4 point they were projecting. So again, that's going to play on a buyer's psyche. In the short term, I think it's going to get people who are locked into a pre-approval to really try to get out there and buy a house, and that may keep the prices steady. But as soon as people are having to qualify at this new rate, just with the way that qualifying works, you're either qualifying at your posted rate plus 2% or 5.25%, whatever is greater. So now that fixed rates are over that 3.25% number, it means people are having to qualify at a number that's higher than 5.25, and it's seriously cutting into their borrowing capacity. So we probably will see another bit of a dip in prices is my projection later on in the year. Will buyer demand be able to kind of, fight this downturn in prices off? We'll have to see. That's really the only answer. I don't think anybody has a crystal ball to tell you one way or the other. What I do know is that I'll be doing this every single month, so stay tuned with me to see what happens with prices. April, it's a big month in real estate. It's when a lot of things do go down, really does shape the rest of the year up. So what I'd ask you to do is, if you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel, please like the video, please share it with a friend, please turn on notifications so you don't miss anything else going forward in the future. Make sure to tune back in with me in a month's time to see where we're at. And until then, I hope you have an amazing April, and we'll talk soon. Cheers.